All right, we should be live right now. Uh, I see a couple people are on the stream right now. Once again, as I will always say as I introduce these streams, comments are open. If you have any questions, want me to comment on anything, please feel free to drop it down. We got a lot to discuss. Preakness, hey, how's it going? We got a lot of stuff to talk about, obviously, with the Preakness. Excuse me a moment. Where'd my plug go? War of Will did win, and yes, we will get to that in a minute. Hate this. War of Will. Yeah, so once I get my phone charger plugged in, we'll get to everything. All right. So a lot of people I can see are here already. So I want to get to everything. I want to start off with obviously the big story of tonight. War of Will won the Preakness. What I will say about the Preakness, not 100% completely unexpected. War of Will had a pretty decent chance. I thought War of Will was a good shot. Didn't necessarily, he wasn't my pick to win. Always Mining was. Unfortunately, Always Mining did not pan out the way that I thought he would and other people thought he would. But I guess you could see that with Always Mining, yeah, that was a good time too. I was in a restaurant, so I didn't really hear any of the commentary about anything. It was just all I could see was that War of Will won the race. I just had to go back and rewatch everything. The stretch run, it was a good final time, 154 in 1/5. Very good time for a mile and 3/16. Bodie Express. That's the other thing that everyone's talking about is that Bodie Express ditched John Velasquez at the start. I don't really think that is something you can really hold against him. I mean, the horse dumped the rider at the start of the race. It happens. It's unfortunate that he didn't get a real opportunity to run in the Preakness, but I really don't think Bodie Express would have done anything anyway. He's a maiden, and he was going to be a maiden coming out of the Preakness. But the one point, and I'm going to be reiterating this point over the night because I know people are going to bring this up, but the first time I'm going to say this, and again, I'm going to say this many times, but the real 7 seconds faster than the Pimlico Special. Yeah, but the Pimlico Special this year was run at 1.25 miles. So what was that? 154. So that would have been 2 minutes. That 154. 2 minutes one. That's not bad for 1.25 miles. The Pimlico Special this year was run at 1.25 miles. So keep that in mind. So it was a good time for 1.25 miles in the Pimlico Special, and it was a good time for 1 mile and 3/16 in the Preakness. I have no idea why the Pimlico Special was run. You didn't know? Yeah, it wasn't communicated that much, but uh, War of Will, or excuse me, the Pimlico Special. I have no idea why it was run at 1.25 miles instead of 1 mile and 3/16. Good for Pimlico, they did that, but I really don't really see why there was a reason to do that, and B it doesn't really matter either way. Good for Tenfold that he won the Pimlico Special. I really don't think it's going to amount to anything. Steve Asmussen said that Tenfold had the potential to improve like Gunrunner. I didn't exactly hear the comment 100% from the mouth of Steve Asmussen. I thought that, what I took that to mean was that both Gunrunner and Tenfold improved significantly from their 3 to 4-year-old year. Gunrunner won a couple of stakes races as a 3-year-old, but ultimately Gunrunner did not pan out to be the best 3-year-old in 2016. Yeah, that's when Gunrunner was a 3-year-old. But Gunrunner was a very good 4-year-old. He won a bunch of stakes as a 4-year-old. But the thing that I would say is the difference between Tenfold and Gunrunner is that Gunrunner was the better horse. Gunrunner was a good 3-year-old. Tenfold was not that good as a 3-year-old, and I don't think Tenfold is really that good of a 4-year-old. Now, maybe give Tenfold a year or two, he could be up to the caliber of Gunrunner. But at 4 years old, yes, they may improve, and that may be what Steve Asmussen was saying when he said that. But to say that Tenfold and Gunrunner are in the same class is completely loony because that's not true. Tenfold and Gunrunner, Tenfold may be a good horse. Tenfold may win a couple of stakes races. The Pimlico Special is kind of a second tier race for older horses. It's kind of like the Oaklawn Handicap, although the Oaklawn Handicap has had some good winners in the past. But uh, it's good for Tenfold, but really the Pimlico Special, I really don't hold much value in that race. I think that as we go through the year, the races for 3-year-olds are going to get the more important the races for the 3-year-olds are going to come later in the year. That's what my take on it is. Now, this is the first time I'm going to say this. I kind of got sidetracked with him bringing up the Pimlico Special. The real loser in this year's Preakness is not any of the horses that ran in it. And it's not even a horse. It's two people, Gary West and Luis Saez. And the reason that I say that they're the biggest losers is because Maximum Security was disqualified for mostly interfering with War of Will. I know Tyler Gaffleone did not claim foul because my name is well, that's interesting. So you must have had War of Will or like the fact that War of Will won the Preakness. He's a very talented 3-year-old, I will say. You know, I was kind of wary on War of Will because, I mean, grass horses like that tend to not pan out. But so at this time, who's the best 3-year-old? I still don't think we know that question. Maximum Security is a very good 3-year-old, but I don't want to discredit War of Will. I think as we go through the year, we're going to find out that question. Although War of Will put himself in that conversation. Now, what I was saying right before you showed up, I was talking about who the two biggest losers in the Preakness are. And they weren't horses that ran in the Preakness this year. They are Gary West and Luis Saez, of course, the owner and jockey of Maximum Security. This, and I had already said before that I will not listen to anyone who says that the disqualification was not warranted because I think 100% it was the right decision. And I think this validates the decision for the stewards because it's not like War of Will was making his run and then just bottomed out. Because that's what some people were saying, and I never bought that take. And Jeremy Ballin said this, and I'm kind of paraphrasing what Jeremy Ballin said, but I kind of had the same opinion as him. Is that was a bullcrap take that Maximum Security would, or that excuse me, War of Will was making his run and then just bottomed out. That was a bullcrap take. War of Will had a lot of run left in him, and I think that if War of Will or Maximum Security did not come over and interfere with him, that we would have seen a lot more from War of Will. I'm not necessarily saying that War of Will would have won the race. I'm not saying that at all. Maximum Security still could have very well run the Kentucky Derby, but War of Will would have been a lot more competitive had Maximum Security not shifted out 4 lanes and interfered with him. Now, Long Range Toddy did not run in this race, so I have absolutely no idea what he would have done. And, John Court, I think that's a little ridiculous what John Court was saying. The only jockey that I think you could say, if they claim foul, 100% you agree with them and you think, yes, that horse was 100% bothered, is now Maximum Security. And I think looking back on history will look a lot more favorably on the disqualification of Maximum Security in the Kentucky Derby because War of Will won the Preakness. And just from what I've seen on Twitter, is a lot of people are starting to now agree with the decision, which, it's kind of stupid that 2 weeks ago, the Churchill Downs stewards were getting blasted, absolutely blasted for disqualifying a horse. Now, it looks like they made the right decision, which they always had made the right decision. If you're just coming to this realization, congratulations. The Churchill Downs stewards had made the right decision, and I'm done talking about Maximum Security or Maximum Security's disqualification not being the right decision. That if you still believe that, then you can go off in your corner and enjoy being loony. It's just there's more important things to deal with. Yes, Maximum Security was the best horse, and I still think Maximum Security was the best horse, but War of Will had a lot of run left in him. And, we'll never know what War of Will could have done in the Kentucky Derby, but, War of Will should have won, or I'm not going to say should have won. I'm not saying that at all, but maximum security, disqualification, 100% validated. I think this ensures that the lawsuit that owner Gary West is taking into court right now does not change anything. The Kentucky Derby results will not change. They were not going to change, but 100% they will not change. I can guarantee you that. So I've got all that stuff out about maximum security. So I want to talk a little bit about who is the best 3-year-old now. The short answer, I have no idea. This Preakness was kind of I don't want to say a second tier Preakness, but there wasn't as many good horses running into it. And someone went after me and they're like, they're saying, how could you almost the most boring? I would definitely agree with that, Team Bitcoin. Definitely, this was a very hard Preakness to, first of all, hard Preakness to handicap. And there were just a lot of duds in this race. Like, I mean, excuse me. I'm sorry. Is a miler tops. Improbable is a miler tops. Yeah, we'll get to Improbable in a minute. I'm done with him. I really don't care about Improbable anymore. Someone needs to fix that on Horse Racing Nation. They have Bodie Express finishing 99th. Yeah, someone's got to fix that. Improbable is a miler top. Yeah, I guess I could put aside my points for a minute and talk about that. A lot of people have been talking about the pedigree on Improbable and how it just does not look that Improbable looked so good after he won the Los Al Futurity, and then he didn't run for a long time, and we spent the whole winter saying, when are Game Winner and Improbable going to run? And we thought Game Winner and Improbable were going to be 1-2 in the Triple Crown. Now, I mean, we make this mistake every year. We buy into the really good buzz horses, and then once April comes around and the real horses show up, then so it happens every winter without fail. There's a buzz horse that your horse is like Hidden Scroll. I will say Improbable was a little bit of a buzz horse. Game Winner, I don't want to say Game Winner didn't live up to the hype, but Improbable, this was kind of a Improbable. If you're really that good, like if you really have the class to be a real legit horse, this is your time to show it. Some 2-year-olds don't progress as 3-year-olds. I don't want to say that Improbable hasn't progressed, but I mean, what was in that Los Al Futurity? Baffert Buzz Horse, definitely. Definitely Bob Baffert and Mike Smith made Improbable, gave Improbable a lot more. But looking back at that Los Al Futurity, there wasn't really much in it. A one horse Dueling hasn't run since then. Mucho Gusto, third in the Sunland Derby. He's running in the Las Barrera. I don't know off the top of my head when that is, the Las Barrera. Extra Hope was fourth in the Rebel. Savagery won an allowance, or was fourth in an allowance race back in April. Dale Roman. Yeah, that Dale Roman's horse Everfast was a surprise. And then King of Speed. Only thing notable about King of Speed was he was one of the last horses. I think he was actually the last horse that Gary Stevens ever rode. King of Speed, which, by the way, if you don't know already, Racing Rundown has secured Gary Stevens to be a guest on the podcast. That interview date is set for June 17th. I forgot to lead with that. If you have not heard already, that was the announcement that I've been talking about. And I did say I've been saying in the past that I've been working on something special. That's what I was working on. I wasn't sure if it was going to work out. That's why I didn't want to say anything about it. But Gary Stevens on the podcast, I think actually King of Speed was the last horse that he ever did ride, but I don't know. I'll figure that out at some point. But Improbable, was it just the fact that the Los Al Futurity wasn't really that strong of a field? And the Los Al Futurity has not really been the strongest race. I mean, I think the last good horse to win the Los Al Futurity, and nothing is going to come out for Los Al Futurity if I just type that in. I want to look back at the winners of the Los Al Futurity and see who some of the winners are for the past. I know I've talked a lot about Mastery. Mastery was really good and I thought Mastery would have done a lot. I had War of Will with 6 horses, not. You had War of Will with 6 horses, number 10. That's good for you. I mean, the low self-utility has had a couple of good horses. Mastery, Dortmund, Shared Belief. Looking at Lucky, Pioneer the Nile, but really, Dortmund 2014. But really, you know, what talent was in that low self-utility? Not really much. I really don't know that there was any talent in that low self-utility. So maybe we just overvalued Improbable after that win in the low self-utility. He was a second in the Rebel Stakes. What division of that? Let's look at some of the other horses that were in that division. You had a horse like Galilean, pretty decent Calbred, won the restricted Calbred Stakes races. Extra Hope I already talked about. Long Range Toddy was not really that good. Long Range Toddy, he did win one of the divisions of the Rebel Stakes. Good for him. Long Range Toddy never really bought into him. Mucho Gusto won the Las Barrera. What do I think of Bodie Express during the rider? Hey, nice to see you. It's gonna happen. Something like that. It's not the first time that someone's thrown the rider. It doesn't surprise me it's horse racing. These are 1,100-pound animals. They're not race cars. They're not machines. Stuff happens. I think it's good that the horse is okay and that Johnny Velasquez is okay. It's horse racing. That's going to happen. But I think about Improbable, we just kind of overvalued the fields in the low self-utility. Maybe War of Will would have won the Derby. Yeah, I talked about that earlier, that I think you were here for that. I'm not sure. I'll rephrase it. Ask Stevens who the best horse he's. Here's what I will say to you guys. I am going to be opening up that to. I'm going to be live streaming that interview. It is on a Monday, June 20 or June 17th. I will open it up to questions from the stream. Of course, we can't have too many, but I will open that up. So I have my list of questions already. I'm not going to put that out right now, but I will allow you guys to ask some questions to the Hall of Famer Gary Stevens. And, if you want to ask him that, go ahead and ask him that. I will not ignore questions. I just may not be able to get to all of them. And if I do ignore a question, it is because I have asked that already. I will not right now release my list of questions, but I will definitely open it up to questions from the audience, and you can feel free to ask the Hall of Famer whatever you want. I don't think he would be opposed to it. Now I want to get to these two guys just asked me, should Pimlico close and Laurel Park take over the Preakness? You said Pimlico needs to be demolished. I don't really care, honestly. I mean, I think if the Stronach Group probably doesn't want to run 2 track. The Stronach Group probably, in their case, they want to move everything. They want to make Laurel Park a super track. They want to make Laurel Park up to the caliber of Santa Anita and Gulfstream Park and the other tracks that they have. I feel like with Stevens, because I've seen people ask him before, I feel like he gives different people different answers. Hold the phone. You're interviewing. I don't think you missed that. Yeah, Gary Stevens is coming on the podcast on June 17th. But I want to get back to what he was saying. Stevens will definitely, he's told different people different. Like, I've seen him tell some people Point Given. I've asked him myself on Twitter. I'm like, is Beholder the best horse you've ever? And he said yes. And then someone said, is Silver Charm the best horse you've ever ridden? He says yes. So Gary is probably says that about different horses at different time. Now, I'm not saying that Gary wakes up. Can I just have a second to scream? That's actually interesting because I saw that. I was in class when I opened up the email that I got from his wife. Emailed me and told me that Gary was interested in coming on the podcast, and I was in class, so I couldn't scream. I literally almost fainted because I'm like, this isn't actually happening. The Hall of Famer Gary Stevens, my favorite jockey, did not just agree to come on Racing Rundown. I'm still shocked that Racing Rundown has gotten to this point in geez, what was it? I started this back in January, and Racing Rundown really, you know, for as much crap as I got for making that video about Tacitus, that was the video that got my channel going. And at some point, I will make it a point at some time to figure out wherever Tacitus is studded at, and I will go and I will bring my cameraman with me whenever I do eventually get a cameraman. Yes, I am working on getting a co-host, getting a cameraman, getting all those people. It's not going to be me alone forever. Racing Rundown is slowly growing, but at some point I will drag my cameraman out to wherever Tacitus is being studded at, and we will meet. We will have him on camera, and we will say this is the horse that really got Racing Rundown going. But it's just really shocking that it's gotten to this. It's gotten to this point already. So I want to get back to what you guys were talking about with Pimlico. I really don't care, but I think what the Stronach Group is trying to do is they're trying to make one really good track. And Pimlico is really old. It's going to take a lot to renovate it, and the Stronach Group does not want to renovate it, and the city of Maryland does not want to renovate it, but the Stronach Group wants this. I think this is my understanding of it. If I'm saying stuff that's complete BS, please let me know. But I think what it is with the Stronach Group is that they don't want to rebuild Pimlico themselves. The city of Maryland doesn't want them to rebuild Pimlico. They want to move the Preakness. The city of Maryland doesn't want them to move. I know that Stronach Group wants to move. City of Maryland doesn't. I think at some point it will move. I'll get to Owendale in a few minutes, but I think honestly, I really don't care. But if Maryland's kind of a smaller state, I would say probably at some point they will contract it, and I think Pimlico's days are numbered. I think the Stronach Group is going to try to fight this, and the first chance they get, they're bolting. They're getting as far away from Pimlico as they possibly can. They've been trying to get the Breeders' Cup to come to Laurel Park, and I've wondered myself, why hasn't it come to Maryland? Because Pimlico's in no condition to host it, and they're trying to make Laurel Park their new super track. Bodie Express, I did not understand why Bodie Express was getting any kind of respect on the tote board. He was a maiden. I apologize for that. Sorry. I need to get water. Belmont War of Will. Is that confirmed? I have no idea. That's probably not confirmed. That would be awesome. I am going to be at the Belmont Stakes this year. If anyone is going to the Belmont Stakes this year, is that confirmed? War of Will versus Maximum Security? Let me see. Versus Maximum Security. But yeah, so I'm going to be at the Belmont Stakes this year. If anyone wants to, meet up there, talk racing, whatever, I will let you guys know where I will be at Belmont Park. I don't have my tickets yet, but I am going to be getting them, and I will be at the Belmont Stakes. If Maximum Security is not a Belmont horse at all. And, a lot of people were saying that Maximum Security was, if he had not been disqualified, he would have run in the Preakness. Maximum Security would have run in the Preakness, and he would have probably won because Pimlico is a very speed-favoring track. But he would not. He's not a Belmont horse. And I would say that's not my passcode. I would say that if you are trainer, someone said video of War of Will was limping back. Someone said video of War of Will was limping back to the barn after Preakness. I don't know. I literally was driving for a half hour, so I didn't get to see any of the post race highlights about everything. I had to rewatch the Preakness to figure everything out. But this is just the theme of the Triple Crown this year. Stupid crap happening and horses getting injured. But I just want to reiterate this again. I will be at the Belmont Stakes this year. Do you think Classic Empire would have had a bright future if he ran after the Preakness? I really don't know about Classic Empire. I mean, Classic Empire, I always thought Classic Empire was kind of like Chief's Crown, and I used the Chief's Crown comparison for Game Winner, but I think Classic Empire was really a Chief's Crown type horse, and he ran a very similar I mean, pre-Preakness, or pre-Preakness, he had very similar results to Chiefs Crown, the first ever winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was fourth in the Kentucky Derby, second in the Preakness, and then it, Chiefs Crown ran in races after the Preakness. Unfortunately, Classic Empire didn't really do anything after the Preakness. I really don't know about Classic Empire. Classic Empire was always a horse that I never really had a lot of respect for. Yeah, Tacitus is going to run in the Belmont Stakes. Bill Mott, I don't think Bill Mott confirmed that, but basically Bill Mott said by not running him in the Preakness that we're going Belmont. And that was kind of self-explanatory because Bill Mott's a New York trainer. I always make this mistake. I always forget to get water before these streams, and like 20 minutes in, like my voice is shot because I'm still not 100% recovered from my cold, but it's fine. Classic Empire would have refused it. Yeah, no, Classic Empire wasn't the best horse. I was never really very high on Classic Empire. The horse that I liked in 2017 was Gormley. Yeah, no, Chief's Crown was always a very consistent horse. Chief's Crown was a good horse. I think Game Winner will go in the Belmont Stakes. I think, this is what we're saying about Game Winner all the time is that give him more ground and he'll win. 20 million. That's so stupid. Gary West is a clown. Do you think Game Winner will go? Yeah, I already was in the process of answering that. Game Winner, we've been saying this since he lost the Rebel Stakes. I said this after I said the 3-year-old will win. The true 3-year-old. Gary West wants no. Gary West, I think, is going to shut up now. And if I'm Gary West, I would just shut up after that. Like, if I'm Gary West, I would just shut up. Like, go ahead, have your lawsuit, take your. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I don't say that it's a bad decision to go for the lawsuit because, I mean, he lost money, so he has a chance to win it. But Gary West is a clown. Just if I were him, if I had any advice to him, I would just say, shut up, don't say anything else. War of Will won. He was impeded by your horse in the stretch. We're not saying that uh, we're not saying that War of Will would have won the Kentucky Derby, but War of Will was cost a significant chance to win the Kentucky Derby. Game Winner, though. I want to get back to that. I kind of got sidetracked with the new comments that came in. Belmont Stakes. Game Winner. We've been talking about Game Winner. He lost the mile and a 16th Rebel Stakes. I said, give him that extra 16th, he'll win. Didn't get that, got that extra 16th, didn't win. Give him that extra 16th in the Kentucky Derby, he'll win. Got that extra 60 or whatever it is, quarter, whatever. Give him that, he'll win. Didn't get that. So now we're going to say that again. Give Game Winner a mile and a half, he'll win. Now, I will say he got a pretty crappy trip in the Kentucky Derby. Maybe he gets a clean trip in the Belmont Stakes, but this is kind of the last chance race for some horses. This is my last. Belmont Stakes would be my Game Winner last chance race. I would say Game Winner, prove yourself, prove that you're not the typical horse that bottoms out after a Breeders' Cup Juvenile win. The true 3-year-old will win at Saratoga. I've been wondering that myself. I've been wondering what's the race that is going to decide the 3-year-old championship this year? Because the past couple of years before 2018, the 3-year-old championship was decided on Belmont Stakes Day last year, but the Travers Stakes decided 2016 and 2017. So I've been wondering what's the race that's going to decide it. Is it going to be the Haskell? Is it going to be the Travers? Is it going to be the Pennsylvania Derby? Is it going to be the Breeders' Cup Classic? I don't know. We'll have to see, but I think that Saratoga definitely has a possibility. The Travers Stakes, I think this year is going to be a really good race. I want to see where West says, yeah, Gary West is a clown. He's got a lot of people in his ear, like Jim Rome talk, and I know a lot of you guys probably aren't big like into other sports. Like I don't know what you guys' interests are. If you're other sports fans, that's great. I love sports. I'm a sports person. Number one, horse racing. While I have the podcast on it, I wouldn't say that. I don't really know what my number one sport is. I just love sports in general. But Jim Rome, great show. If you're into sports, then I would definitely say tune into it. But Jim Rome was the owner of Shared Belief, and I was watching his show the Monday after the Kentucky Derby, and he was talking about how after Shared Belief got mugged at the start of the 2014 Breeders' Cup Classic, that a lot of people were in his ear like, push this, you got fouled, you are in the right, like that horse should have come down. And Jim Rome definitely understood that a lot of people had that feeling. But unfortunately for Jim Rome, he said sometimes you just get bad racing luck. And, Jim Rome didn't push it. And I think Gary West is probably very upset that the stewards didn't give him an answer after the Kentucky Derby. I think maybe if the stewards had just said, here's the reason why we disqualified you, then maybe he would have just gone away. But now that happened, he's got people in his ear telling him, you got to challenge this. And unfortunately, he's making a fool out of himself. What do you think of Catholic Boy? I'm pretty impressed with him. Grade 1 winner on dirt. And yeah, Catholic Boy is a very versatile horse. I would just say that with Catholic Boy, I really don't know what Catholic Boy would be able to do on, if they decided to keep him on turf, I don't know what Catholic Boy would be able to do. Because, Enable's going to run on the Breeders' Cup turf this year. And I'm sure Enable is the universal consensus best grass horse in the world now that Winks is retired. Actually, no, you could probably have an argument between Winks and Almond Eye. Almond Eye, the great Japanese mare. But I would say definitely with your horse, Catholic Boy, very impressive. Grade 1 winner on dirt and grade 1 winner on turf. I noticed a horse fell in the Preakness today. Is it all right? Yeah, that horse was Bodie Express. And no, the horse didn't fall in the Preakness. The horse threw the jockey off him. But everyone's fine. Once again, we had an incident in the Kentucky Oaks. Everyone was fine. Everyone was fine after the Preakness. Bodie Express, the maiden, threw his rider at the start of the race. But, Catholic Boy won the Dixie. He was my pick. That was my one winner of the weekend. Winks. Yeah, I will say, I was really drunk on the Winks hype because I watched a race and I had to deal with all the stupid quarter horse and harness racing for 3 hours because I didn't want to fall asleep because I knew I was going to miss the race. So I literally had to stay up and watch all the stupid quarter horse and harness racing. I wanted no part of that, but Winks did run against a lot of horses that were trained by Chris Waller, but you got to give her credit. She was you don't just win 33 consecutive races if you're not a good horse. Winks will never be considered the best horse ever. Australian people will say that, but I just don't think Winks will ever be considered the best horse ever. But it was definitely very impressive. But I want to get back to Catholic Boy. Nothing wrong with quarters. I'm not a fan of quarter horse racing. And, the quarters I didn't really mind. The harness racing was what I really didn't want to see. But it was also the fact that I was really exhausted that night. I hadn't felt great that weekend either. Like, I had a couple of weekends where I just felt like crap. And I just wanted it to get to the race. And I was like, all right, can we just be done with this quarter horse and harness crap? I didn't want any part of the harness racing. I'm not a harness racing person. Quarters are fine. I just really just wanted to see Winks run. And I 100%, that was an amazing thing to watch. But I want to get back to Country House. Not Country House, Catholic Boy. I would say about Catholic Boy, let's see where he goes. Grade 1 winner on turf, grade 1 winner on dirt, wherever they decide to take him. Maybe they might try to run him in the Arlington Million. Maybe they might try to run him, in some of the dirt races at Saratoga. We'll have to see. But Catholic Boy, there's a lot of routes they could take. When it comes to comedy, Gary West is best. I like that clown or whatever that is, clown avatar. Travers will decide the 3-year-old champ, and this debate will be decided on the track, not in the media. Well, yeah. What's gonna happen after the Triple Crown? You are too young to be sick all the time. I'm not sick all the time. I just had a couple of bouts with allergy. One of this bout was I had a cold, and then I just had allergies. It's New, May in New England. If anyone, I don't know if you guys are from New England, but people who live in New England will tell you, like, my high school, everyone got sick last week. Like, literally, the entire school was sick. The school ran out of tissues, and they're not going to get tissues for the rest of the year. So we don't have tissues anymore. Love that, but in all seriousness, like, uh, I'm not really that sick that often. It's also just I talk so much, so my throat dries out very quickly. I need to hydrate a lot. But yeah, what I wanted to say though, I want to get back to Will's point. All the stupid people who don't cover horse racing, who just they talk about the Triple Crown, and then after the Triple Crown they just disappear. They're all going to go away again. And the, here in horse, like, as much as I would like, horse racing to be more mainstream, and I think it has grown, and it's not a dying industry. It is being exposed. There's a lot more exposure. As much as it would be great to have horse racing become more mainstream, uh, unfortunately, or I just not unfortunately, fortunately, all the stupid people who are just covering horse racing just to cover it because that's what's on. They're all going to go away. All the people who don't know anything, bye bye. We'll see you next year. And all of us who know what we're talking about and know the sport of horse racing will be able to cover the real races that decide who the champions are this year. And I'm looking forward to the summer because there's going to be some good races in the summer. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. I don't have anything against quarters. It's just when you're exhausted and you want to watch Winks run, you just want to see that. You don't want to. It's like during the Super Bowl, like, some of the commercials are great, but you just want the Super Bowl to come on. Uh, no, I'm not a Patriots fan. I hate the New England Patriots. Uh, I'm 17. I just turned 17 2 weeks ago. My 17th birthday was the day after the Kentucky Derby. Gaffleon was born on 9/12. His horse number 1 was 1,126 days old. Today, it's also 15 days from long shot movie today. I don't really know what you're saying there, but that sounds cool. Luckily for me, I'm following year round, and yeah, no, for people who follow the sport year round and actually know stuff about it and aren't just stupid people in the media that are just trying to get clicks and really don't know what they're talking about. And like when I was watching the Kentucky Derby, like on that Monday, like all the people were like, let's be perfectly honest, like, I mean, we're not people who watch like we watch like the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup and like that's it. So I'm like completely good for you having this horse racing knowledge at your age. Thank you. I not that this is a bad thing, but I've had so many people say that to me, like, you're so young and you know so much about this. Yeah, and that's another thing that people have said to me. They're like, you got a bright future. I mean, racing rundown, it's just going to keep growing. We got the Hall of Famer Gary Stevens in just under a month. Really excited for that. More will be coming from there. Again, like I said, I'm being tight-lipped about this because I don't want to say things and get your guys' hopes up and not work out. But I will explain the Gary Stevens situation a little bit. Gary Stevens is my all-time favorite jockey. So to have him on Racing Rundown is going to be amazing. And I doubt that he's watching this or is going to see this, but you made a fan in me. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate all the support. And I know that my knowledge of horse racing is not like I don't know everything about it. I don't claim to be a genius. I know a lot about it, but I still like there's a lot more that I need to learn about it. But just to have this success and really have this stuff with Racing Rundown so quickly, it's real like it's just awesome. So basically what happens is I reached out to I will talk a little bit about this though. I reached out to the problem is that the focus of horse racing is only paid attention to for 6 months and not the whole year? And do you think that excel? Oh, this is a conversation that that I had plenty of takes on. I don't mind getting into that. I'll put aside the stuff that we'll talk about probably every episode of Racing Rundown. Me, I'm good at knowing like famous horses and just things about them, but gambling and certain types of terminology are just not my strong suit. It didn't used to be my strong suit either, but I just kind of Triple Crown does trump all else, but paid attention to. Excuse me. I'll get into that if you want me to. My take on the accelerate justified debate was, and I made a video about it, and once again, I'm sorry. Angel Cordero was great and super funny every day. Hey, you know Angel Cordero? Who knows? I love Angel Cordero. That's all I'm going to say. Angel Cordero, who knows? But I will get back to that. I had plenty of takes about that. I originally thought, like, right at the time of the Breeders' Cup Class, I'm like, there's no way that you could make Justify Horse of the Year. Like, Accelerate is so good. And, that was my take for a while. I thought, good for Justify. He won the Triple Crown, but Accelerate was so good. And then, I was watching another guy that I watch, which this guy is not a fan of horse racing, not a friend of the show. Obviously, none of the people that sports talk shows that I watch are friends of the show, but definitely not a friend of the sport, friend of the show, whatever you want to say. Colin Cowherd was talking about this, and this is like a few days before the new year. He was talking about the MVP debate in the NFL between Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes. And, Drew Brees had the best season, but Drew Brees had done more with less, but Patrick Mahomes was just the best player in the NFL. And he realized it, and him saying, when he had that take on his show, it kind of made me think about it. Justify was the best horse in 2018. I don't really care about the fact, he had a lot had a lot of success, and ran in the Breeders' Cup and all this crap. Justify stopped running after the Preakness and whatever, or stopped running after the Belmont Stakes. What have you? Like, I had that take originally that Accelerate did more and stayed the whole season, so he should win. But ultimately, the best horse last year won Horse of the Year, and that was always my take for Justify. Was the best horse, and I think the novelty of the Triple Crown definitely got lost on people because American Pharoah had just won the Triple Crown, and I'm actually working on. Justify was the best. Older horse division was weak last year. Yeah, Accelerate. I will always say, like, I had been waiting for Accelerate to pop, and I was very high on him after 2017. Him beating Arrowgate really woke me up on him. I completely drew a line through his 2017 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Okay, well, the one thing I will say about Omaha is the only horse that won a Triple Crown that did not win Horse of the Year. Omaha was not voted on the same year he won the Triple Crown. All the awards prior to 1936 are retrospective awards. So they voted retrospectively on who Horse of the Year should have been, and they looked at what horse had the better record. And there wasn't the bias of a Triple Crown. I think if it was voted in that year, Omaha should have been or would have won Horse of the Year. But the older horse division was very, very weak last year. I will give you that. Breeders' Cup always determined the best. Yeah, and I think if Justify ran in the Breeders' Cup with Accelerate, Justify would have won. But what was that? What was I talking about earlier? I lost my train of thought. You got me going on the Justify Accelerate take. That was the first real video that I made on Racing Rundown, and I'll always look back on that, and it pisses me off that I forgot to mute a bunch of the races, and I'm really sorry when I do that. I did that in my Preakness preview video, and I really apologize for that. I was exhausted last night. I was just trying to get that out before the morning because I had to work this morning, so I had to get that out last night. I was exhausted. I didn't check it. I checked every other race except for the clip that I put in last. I apologize for that. Juvenile division was also weak last year. Weak spelled W-E-E-K. Yeah. No, it was kind of weak last year. I mean, the fact that Nick's Go was the third finalist, really, Nick's Go, I never bought into him at all. Like, and I made an episode 2 of the podcast was called Knicks Didn't Go, because Knicks didn't go. But, Game Winner, he was really good last year, and I want to give Game Winner credit where credit was due, because he was good, but it just wasn't that good. Arch plus Breeders' Cup makes you the best. I don't know what you're saying there. Okay, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, but what gives Knicks Go? But what gives? Knicks Go has 2 good races and because Knicks Go was a long shot horses like Knicks Go. Oh, I know what you're saying. Arc plus Breeder. You spelled it Arch, yeah. Arc plus Breeders' Cup makes you. Yep, Enable best. Probably Enable was the best horse that ran in the Breeders' Cup last year. Excuse me for a moment. I want to take my hat off. I am repping the Breeders' Cup though. 35th Breeder. I got my Breeders' Cup hat got for Christmas. 19 years, 2 days ago to be exact. Arc. Yeah, I figured that out. He meant Arc. A full moon was under the 100. What was the one? Oh, that was Red Bullet, Jerry Bailey. Jerry Bailey is another person that I'm just gonna say. Just gonna say, Jerry Bailey, very good. Love Jerry Bailey. Just gonna say that. So, yeah, definitely Unable was the best horse that ran in the Breeders' Cup last year. And, I would have voted for Unable as champion turf female in this country. Although I'm kind of glad that she didn't win because I think the Breeders' Cup winners kind of tend to get it by default. Yeah, I am repping the 35th Breeders' Cup. Got my hat. I wear this all the time. I love this hat. This also is kind of a sentimental hat because this is the last Christmas present that I got from my grandmother. So multiple reasons. I love horse racing. I love the Breeders' Cup. This is also the last gift that I got from my grandmother. Ortiz brothers the best. Now, yeah, the Ortiz brothers are so good. They're gonna rule. They're gonna win Kentucky Derbies and they're gonna win Triple Crown races. I'm not saying they're gonna win a Triple Crown. Who knows? But they're gonna win races. They'll get their wins. They'll get their. Both of them want to win the Kentucky Derby. They'll get their Derby wins. Can't wait. Yeah, no. Saratoga is gonna be great this year, and good for Fox Sports. My man Gary Stevens is gonna be there. It's a Fox Sports Saturday at the races, so we'll see a lot of that. I'm actually interested though. Fox Sports has the rights to the Travers Stakes this year. So it's going to be interesting if Fox ever tries to make a run at getting the Triple Crown. Of course, if they ever do that, that's going to be disgusting because we're going to have to deal with Joe Buck and horse racing. And if any of you have ever seen the 1998 Santa Anita Derby, Joe Buck was covering that, and Joe Buck sounded like the biggest idiot in the world. Like someone literally just put a script in front of him and said, "This is what you have to say. Don't sound like an idiot." And he still managed to sound like an idiot. So Joe Buck does not need to cover horse racing. Yeah, Joe Buck does not need to cover horse racing. Please keep Joe Buck out of horse racing. The Fox crew's got a great crew. Greg Wolf, Lafitte Pinkai is not Greg Wolf, Paul LaDuca, and Gary Stevens, the 3 that are usually in the studio. Great, 3 of them, amazing. And then their correspondents like Lafitte Pinkai. I think Bob Newmeyer's on that crew. But Joe Buck, start that hashtag. Keep Joe Buck out of horse racing. I'll type that in. Hashtag keep Joe Buck out of horse racing. Keep Joe Buck out of horse racing. Anyone want to second that? Go ahead and second that. I love that Joe Buck off. Yeah, keep Joe Buck out of horse racing. Goodbye, Joe Buck. Thanks for the thumbs up. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very interesting year. I want to talk a little bit about the Black-Eyed Susan. Javier Castellano's a good rider. I'm just going to say that Javier Castellano, he's okay. He's got some talent. No, but he dominated yesterday. He unfortunately for him, he didn't win the Preakness this year, but he dominated. Javi C definitely. Javi C's a great rider. So yeah, I'll open it up to. I'm not gonna end the stream right now. I usually like to have these be about 90 minutes. So got another 40 minutes. So if you guys just want to drop in discussion topic, like I'm open to anything. Like you can drop in like, was Jerry Bailey in the? No, Jerry Bailey wasn't in the booth today, and I was wondering where Jerry Bailey was. Why was he not in the booth today? It was Mike Tirico, Mike Tirico, Eddie Olczyk, and Randy Moss. I almost said Randy Romero. Oh, his son graduated. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's nice of them that they let Jerry Bailey go be with his kid. So, literally, like, we got another 40 or so minutes. Like, it could be about it. Like, could be completely unrelated, but like, it could be like something that happened 4 years ago. If you want, like, if you want to talk about anything, go ahead. Just drop it in the comments. Because, there's not really much to talk about now. I mean, we got the Belmont Stakes coming up, but we really don't like. I said after the Kentucky Derby, I said I'm not really interested in talking about horses that I think horse versus horse. Go ahead, drop names in there, and we can talk name drop horses. But you could ask me about it. Some of the horses I think Tacitus is going to run in the Belmont Stakes, but I think Tacitus game winner. But really, we're just kind of pulling stuff out of the air. We don't really know. Skip Away better than Curlin as older Iron Horse. Skip Away was a very good horse. Not even just as an older horse. Skip Away was always a very good horse. I will always say Skip Away is very underrated. Question: whatever happened to jockey Sandy Hockley? I've never heard about him anymore. Yeah, I really don't know what happened to him. That's a good question. I don't know, but I want to get to him talking about Skip Away. Too old? Okay. Skip Away was a very good horse, and Skip Away Hall of Famer was on the Blood Horse, was in the top 30 or top 35 of the Blood Horse, top 100 race horses of the 20th century. Now I know a lot of people mock that race. That list, the top horses of the 20th century, is kind of like the Major League Baseball All-Century team. People kind of joke about that. People joke about the Blood Horse list too, of like how certain horses should be higher than others. I'm not interested in getting into that time. I mean, if you want me to talk about what I think, but I'm not really prepared to discuss that. So I would have to prepare to figure out who. I will say my 1-2 Man of War and Secretariat. There we go. Just got that out there. Man of War, Secretariat. But looking at Skip Away's record, I mean, top horses of the 20th century was BS. Like, why is War Admiral higher than Seabiscuit? I don't know. War Admiral was a real. This is kind of I'm gonna sound like an idiot here because Seabiscuit beat War Admiral, but War Admiral was a very good horse, and I mean they ran once, and I mean it was a match race. This is the 155th year for Saratoga. This year, this earliest meet, longest meet with training track opening the earliest ever 417. War Admiral was great, and I'm gonna second something that Kent DeSormo said back in 2008 after Big Brown got beat, and he was talking about the 11 horses that had the 11 horses that had won the Triple Crown. No, what I was saying was I hadn't heard what happened to him, but Kent DeSormo said this after Big Brown got beat. I can't. I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something to the extent of I can't fathom what kind of freaks those 11 horses were. Those 11 horses that had won the Triple Crown were, and really, I agree with him because I mean, American Pharaoh. What do you think of couldn't fight. Huge race today, setting the track record. Good for him, you know. I don't remember what the final time of that race was because I did hear about that, but I don't remember what the final time was. If you want to drop that in there, but you know, every time a track record gets broken, that's great. Great performance. But Kento Sormo said this, and he's like, I can't fathom what kind of freaks those 11 horses were. I can't fathom what kind of freaks they were either, because not only did they win the Triple Crown, they had a lot different racing styles back in the 30s and 40s. Like, you know, you would have horses run a mile and a quarter, and then like 2 days later run another race. It's just like, I know they weren't running as fast, but you know, you really kind of makes you ask the question. It really makes you ask the question, like, how good were those horses? And you know, if they ran in the 20th century or under modern conditions, you're going to try to rank the 13 Triple Crown winners. You know what you could do? I could help you with your bottom two, Omaha and Sir Barton. Either of those two would be your bottom two. But really, you know, the 30s and 40s Triple Crown horses, I kind of asked, like, what 107? Wow, that's fast. That's fast for a mile and 6 for a mile and 3/16. But you know, it makes you ask the question, like, how good would they be if they ran under circumstances in this time? Like, if Man of War ran in today, Man of War would have never been beaten. Although Man of War wouldn't have run as much as Man of War ran in his career, but Man of War would have never gotten beat. 13 Sir Barton, 12 Omaha. Yeah, I don't really know where I would rank them. Yeah, that was unfortunate hearing that about the filly that died yesterday. I'm not sure. What did you think about the horse Carryback winner? Yeah, I can tell you what year that was. Carryback 1961. Carryback was the typical, you know, horse that had a couple of good races and then fizzled. Like, there have been horses like that. War Emblem, not even War Emblem kind of strikes in mind there, but you know, Carryback just kind of fizzled. Carryback was a very Canyonero the second. Carryback and Canyonero the second, very similar type horses. Had a couple of good races and then fizzled. Sir Barton was a true one-trick pony, which is why I would put him last. Yeah, Sir Barton didn't win another race after the Belmont. Was that true? Didn't win another race after the Belmont Stakes? I'm not sure, but Sir Barton was not really that good of a horse. Who would win Oh, that's a tough one. Secretariat, though. But I always say Spectacular Bid is a better horse than Affirmed and is a better horse than I would put Spectacular Bid in a maybe top 8. If I were to make top 10, I want to look at the Blood Horse top 100 because I would put I actually have this on my iPad. I made a fantasy race of some of the best horses ever, and I got to see if I can find it. Yeah, I just found it. These are some of the best horses ever. Now, I did not include Far Lap in this. Spectacular Bid 157 mile and a quarter. You know, you can come at me with the safety pin all you want. Whether or not that's true or not, I really don't think it matters. Ronnie Franklin rode probably one of the worst Belmont Stakes ever in 1979. He got the horse beat. I really think that if Bill Shoemaker had ridden him, there's no way Spectacular Bid gets beat. Just like if Bill Shoemaker had ridden Northern Dancer, there's no way Northern Dancer gets beat. Bill Hardtack ran a poor Belmont Stakes in 1964, and Ronnie Franklin rode a poor Belmont Stakes in 1979. Two worst rides in Belmont history. But I came up with this, and I want to ask you guys your opinion on this. I made a list of what an all-star race would be. Like, every circumstance, rider, jockey, or horse and jockey. Jockeys really don't matter, but you got Man of War, Secretariat, Citation, Kelso, Count Fleet, Native Dancer, Ruffian, Zenyatta, Affirmed, Justify, Cigar, Personal Ensign, and Spectacular Bid. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of that list of all-star horses? Now, I kind of put one of the horses that won the Triple Crown recently in there. I was going back and forth between American Pharaoh. I decided to put Justify in there because he was the undefeated Triple Crown winner and didn't run as a 2-year-old. But, that could really go either way. So what's your opinion on that? Again, Man of War, Secretariat, Citation, Kelso, Count Fleet, Native Dancer, Ruffian, Affirmed, Seattle Slew, Justify, Drayden Van Dyke. Drayden Van Dyke riding Justify. I don't know why I said Drayden Van Dyke. Cigar, Personal Ensign, and Spectacular Bid. Now, one thing I did not include Rachel Alexandra in that race. And, Zenyatta, now that I think of it, Zenyatta, maybe kind of a hokey horse to put in there, but what distance? Oh, I never even thought about what distance that 1.25 miles. I'll go that 1.25 miles. If you want the jockeys for this particular race, it would be Man of War, Earl Sandy, Secretariat, Ron Turcotte, as usual. Citation, Eddie Arcaro, as usual. Kelso, Ismael Valenzuela was one of the jockeys who rode him. Count Fleet, Johnny Longden. Native Dancer, Eric Guerin. Ruffian, Jacinto Vasquez. Zenyatta, Mike Smith. Affirmed, Lafitte Pinkai. Seattle Slew, Angel Cordero. Justify, Drayden Van Dyke. Cigar, Jerry Bailey. Personal Ensign, Randy Romero. And Spectacular Bid, Bill Shoemaker. Medallion? What do you mean, what about Medallion d'Oro? Medallion d'Oro was not anywhere near... Medallion d'Oro is not anywhere near the class of those horses. Oh, yeah, and for this race, it would be the best of each of these... The best season of each of these horses' careers. So, 3-year-old Man of War, 3-year-old Secretariat, 3-year-old Citation, 3-year-old I actually don't know when Kelso was his best. 3-year-old Count Fleet, Native Dancer, whatever, 3-year-old Ruffian. I'd say 5-year-old Zenyatta. A 4-year-old Affirmed. I don't know what year Seattle so would be. Obviously, 3-year-old Justify, 5-year-old Cigar, 4-year-old Personal Ensign. He developed. Yeah, but Medallion d'Oro was never any. Are you just asking about Medallion d'Oro as a horse, or are you saying why is he not in that list? Because Medallion d'Oro doesn't sniff that class of those horses. But Medallion d'Oro as himself, Medallion d'Oro was a nice horse, won the Travers Stakes, was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic that year. He finished in front of, what was the horse's name? War Emblem and Came Home, the 2 other horses that were anywhere close to it. You're going to say Secretariat's the #1 Triple Crown horse. I can't say that I disagree with you on that. I can't really say that I disagree with your list. Yeah, I don't really think that I have much disagreement with your list. I would put Affirmed ahead of Seattle Slew, even though Seattle Slew went undefeated. Even though Seattle Slew went undefeated, Affirmed had to deal with Alidar for 3 races. So I would put Affirmed in front of Alidar. That's the only change that I would make to it. Yeah, I think you have a pretty solid list. But yeah, so the bid first, Affirmed second, Seattle Sioux third. Yeah, definitely. Excuse me a moment. The bid first, Affirmed and Secretariat battle outside. That would be a great race. I don't really have a way to simulate that though, but if I could ever simulate that, or if that would could ever possibly have, imagine how great of a race that would be. Even though the bid is a great horse, you keep in mind Secretariat never ran at Santa. That's the other thing I didn't think about either. Where would you have this race at? Would you have it at Belmont? Would you have it at Santa Anita? Because I think if you have, it also depends on where you have it. Because maybe if you have it at Santa Anita, you got horses like, Spectacular Bid could win it. Affirmed could win it. Obviously, Zenyatta would be a major contender to win it. Who only lost 1 race in his career and would have won the Breeders' Cup and won the Breeders' Cup and Dubai World Cup. Invasor was a very good horse. Yeah, and for Fernando Jara, who had a very good 2006 season, didn't really do anything after 2006, but Fernando Jara got a couple of great horses in 2006. Or got a great horse and a horse Jazzle that lucked out and ran in the Belmont Stakes when two superstars didn't run in it. Throw info into the computer and see what's up. About what? Invasor or who would win? The Bid's 4-year-old year will never be released. I think it's such a shame that Spectacular Bid did not win the Triple Crown. I've been thinking about that the past couple of days because I've been writing a piece for the blog about how the Triple Crown became winnable again, and I spent a whole part of it talking about Spectacular Bid and just how good of a horse he was. I think it's such a shame that Spectacular Bid did not win the Triple Crown. I really like if you give me one horse, and as much as I love my guy Gary Stevens, and as much as I would love for him to win the Triple Crown, if you gave me one Triple Crown to change, I would change 1979. I would have to say that I would change 1979. And Gary would not probably not be happy to hear me say that, but I would change 1979. That horse was so good. Seattle Slew beat Affirmed beat Spectacular Bid. It's a weird cycle that every Derby winner from beat the next year's winner. Yeah, that is kind of interesting that 77 beat 78, 78 beat 79. Spectacular Bid didn't run against Genuine Risk, though, so that streak didn't continue. Genuine Risk, I saw someone say that Genuine Risk is the Secretariat of fillies. Genuine Risk was a very good filly. Yeah, but they were 3-year-olds when they lost. Older horses more established. Yeah, I think that, the take of a really good older horse is going to beat a really good 3-year-old most of the time. It certainly held true there. I'm going to pull up the jockey. I would say that, the best race that Affirm probably ran in his life. I actually don't want to go out on a limb and say that, but one of the best races that Affirmed ever ran in his life, the 1979 Jockey Club Gold Cup, where he cemented Horse of the Year. And by the way, that was a great call by Marshall Cassidy. Marshall Cassidy was a really good track announcer. But tell me if you can hear the call audio of this race. Affirmed on the outside has the lead by a neck. Coastal on the inside moves into second. But yeah, that was one of the best races Affirmed ever ran in his life. Gallant Best is still fourth as they enter the stretch. On the outside, Affirmed on the rail. It's Coastal between those two. Spectacular Bid. Those three now across the track approaching the 8th pole. Affirmed once again draws clear by a length. On the inside, it's Spectacular Bid in second. Coastal is dropping back in third past the 16th pole. Affirmed on the outside takes this race. Horse of the Year, Affirmed in front. Marshall Cassidy, a legend. Affirmed, great horse, Spectacular Bid. Shame he never won the Triple Crown. That's my takeaway from that race. Or that's my takeaway from that entire thing. Affirmed was so... It's like running a 16-year-old against a 12-year-old. No, it's like running a 16-year-old against a 12-year-old or 22-year-old. A true, yeah. I've always said my Mount Rushmore of race callers is Trevor Denman, Tom Durkin, Dave Johnson, and Chick Anderson. But I would probably put the guys like Michael Rona, Larry Colmus, Marshall Cassidy, and I'd probably say those three. Oh yeah, no, Secretary top. I would definitely say Secretary top 10 athlete that you're ranked among humans. Hey, Justify was ranked in the top 20 in the super hokey ESPN top 20 most dominant list. Do you think there will ever be a filly to win the Derby again? Someone's asked me this before, and I will have to say, with this current system, no, I don't think so. Dave Johnson, and down the stretch they come. Yeah, Dave Johnson trademarked that, so I'm sorry, YouTube, please don't demonetize this. I would say probably not, and it's a shame that there'll never be probably never be another filly to win the Kentucky Derby. You fully agree about Secretariat? Yeah, no, Secretariat's a top 10 athlete. I would say Secretariat's one of the best athletes ever. One of the best athletes ever. Hands down, like, you win the Belmont, you're not supposed to win the Belmont Stakes by 31 lengths. What gave Genuine Risk and Regret their lucky break? I know winning Colors got so lucky. And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk to the Hall of Famer about. I'm going to be like, I'm going to mention to him that, they left you alone. And that's why Winning Colors was able to run. And, Gary talked about how he did something in a race. Yeah, no, that's an all-time. You don't win the Belmont Stakes by 31 lengths. But I'm going to ask him, like, when he first thought that he had the opportunity to wire the field in the Kentucky Derby. But Gary Stevens got really lucky. Regret, Regret was just a great filly. But what I will say about Regret is I have never seen that Kentucky Derby before. I would not be able to comment on it and be able to give you the best opinion on it because I've never seen the race before, and none of us have ever seen that race before. So, I mean, unless you guys like have some weird way of being able to see races that didn't have film for them, but I don't know what gave Regret her lucky break. Genuine Risk, I would just say Genuine Risk ran in a year that was kind of a subpar year for 3-year-olds. That Kentucky Derby was kind of weak. I think there will. Yeah, what I will say is I don't want to say that it'll never happen again. I don't want to say that anything will never happen again because, you say that and then it happens. I've been thinking this whole time, like with Bob Baffert's dominance, I've been thinking, and I wasn't alive in the 90s, so I don't have firsthand perspective on this, but knowing what I've known now and going back in time on the internet and like seeing all the stuff that was said about Wayne Lucas in the early cough cough English Triple Crown. Yeah, oh yeah, we think our lives are terrible. We thought our 37-year drought was terrible. That's a long, long drought. So yeah, we us Americans as usual were spoiled. We thought our drought was long. Well, the ESPN secretary, yeah, and I know Secretariat was voted 25th or 35th, excuse me. But I don't want to say that I never want to say that nothing will happen again. I just think that it's going to take some changes to be made, and I really hope that at some point they kind of do for fillies what they did with the Japan Kentucky Derby series and the European Kentucky Derby series, is that they offer horses on the leaderboard of the Kentucky Oaks a spot in the starting gate. I hope that happens at some point. I don't know why it hasn't happened, and I really hope it does. I hope that they say, okay, top 5 fillies will go down, offer you a spot in the Kentucky Derby. And same thing with what they do with the horses from Japan and the horses from Europe. Don't know if they ever will do that. Really think they should. Because it's not like you would have a horse run in the Kentucky Derby or a filly run in the Kentucky Derby every year. But it's just that super, really talented filly. Then you can run. You don't have to go out of your way and cost her the chance of running in the Kentucky Oaks because you want to try her against the boys on the first Saturday in May. So I don't want to say that it's never going to happen. What I will say is I don't think it's going to happen in my. I will agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. Uh, English Triple Crown. Yeah, I don't know if that's ever going to happen again. I don't know if I'll ever see an English Triple Crown winner. I think it's going to take a really, really good horse to do it. I mean, there was a big gap between. I think it was a horse won it in 1935, and then no one won it until Nijinsky did it in 1970. And what is it now? 1970 to 2020, because there's not going to be a Triple Crown winner this year. Wayne Harrison, he's been in some of the shows. Shout out Wayne. He's probably not listening, but he talked about Magna Grecia. He said it's probably not going to win the Derby, so that means there's not going to be a Triple Crown. But it's going to take a really, really special horse to do it. I do want to get to your question, but I just staying on the fillies in the Kentucky Derby thing for a minute. Yes, fillies can win prep races for sure, but what that would take is it would take a filly not running in a Kentucky Oaks prep race. And so let's just take, for example, let's take Bellafina. Because Bellafina, there were some whispers about her possibly running in the Sunland Derby. Let's take her. Bellafina runs in the Sunland Derby. She needed to get first to get, with the Sunland Derby being a 50-point prep race, she needed to run first. If she didn't run first, then she's screwed. Because Bellafina didn't have the points to get into the Kentucky Oaks. And Bellafina, if she lost the Sunland Derby, would not have been able to run back in a Kentucky Oaks prep race. So trainers are scared about the possibility of missing out on the Kentucky Oaks because they take their shot and try to get into the Derby. So I think, theoretically, you could just run a filly in a Triple Crown prep race, but I just don't think it will happen because trainers want to get into the Oaks and they don't want to risk their spot in the Oaks to try to get into the Derby. Now, I want to ask his question. I'm going to be a little biased here as a New England person. I would love to see the Mass Cap brought back. I know there was a possibility of that getting brought back last year with Gronkowski, the Belmont Stakes runner-up, but with Suffolk Downs closing down, it's just not going to happen. It's unfortunate, but it's just not going to happen. But that's my answer. I would love to see the Mass Cap brought back. Because, the Mass Cap, some great horses ran in the Mass Cap. And it was like, Cigar revived Suffolk Downs. And then, Skip Away ran up there for a couple of times. And then after Skip Away, it just kind of Suffolk Downs fell off again. Have you heard anything about if Maximum Security will be running in the Belmont? I don't think that I've heard the possibility, like whispers of the possibility of him running in the Belmont Stakes. But I think those points I don't know if those points get transferred into the Kentucky Derby or not. Don't want to skip her question. Yes, I have heard some whispers, but I don't know if that's confirmed yet. I don't think it's going to be confirmed for another week. But some good horses ran in the Mass Cap. Cigar revived the Mass Cap after it hadn't been a race for like 5 years. Then Skip Away kind of carried it a little bit. Barons ran in it, and Macho Uno was the last horse to run. Or actually, excuse me, Awfully Wild was the last horse to run in the Mass Cap as it being a graded stakes race. And then 2 years it wasn't run. Then Brass Hat won it in 2007, and Commentator was the last horse ever to win the Mass Cap. And it's unfortunate, and again, like, it's unfortunate what happened with Suffolk Downs, that that racetrack has to be demolished, and after a couple of live racing weekends this upcoming June, they're actually running this weekend at Suffolk Downs, but it's unfortunate that that track is going to have to close. I hope to get to Suffolk Downs before it closes. I do want to bring my video camera there and document some of the stuff there, but yeah, but they began their race closing, or their curtain closing meet. It's unfortunate, and I would really say it's disappointing that I never got to go up there, and it's disappointing that there's a perfectly fine racetrack in New England. I know people have been talking about how the possibility of rebuilding a new track in New England. I know that it would be rebuilt on less valuable real estate. Suffolk Downs is on some really valuable real estate, but it's just too bad. That's what I'll say about it. So I'll finish your question. I would love to see the Mass Cap brought back. I would love to see Suffolk Downs be able to continue, but it's just not happening. The last day of live racing will be on June 30th. I hope to bring my video camera there. I will document some of the inside parts of the track, and hopefully be able to document it. Easy Go or Sunday Science. That's actually interesting. This was something that I wanted to address And there's something on my computer screen. I don't know what that is. I wanted to announce this. I will be doing a 30th anniversary recap of, I think, the greatest single-year rivalry in Triple Crown history. Easy Goer and Sunday Silent, or in horse racing history. Affirmed and Alydar is the greatest rivalry, but that was a 2-year rivalry. Greatest single-year rivalry, Easy Goer and Sunday Silence. Hands down. Best Preakness ever. A very, very good Breeders' Cup Classic. Kentucky Derby. Belmont Stakes. But definitely best Breeders' Cup, or best Preakness. Very good addition to the Breeders' Cup Classic. Yes, they do. Yeah, they're into it. So yeah, I mean, you got that to look forward to. I did mention last week that I have the Man of War 100th anniversary video that's going to come out. It's got me wondering, since Mr. West is put up. Oh, that's why you were asking that, Mr. West. I think that Mr. West putting up $20 million of his own money is a clown show. This whole thing with maximum security is a clown show. The thing that I can't wait for the most is for the maximum security camp to just disappear. Not usually. I'm not a gambler. No, I'm into it for the sport. Like, I'll make my picks for races, but I don't put money on it because I don't like losing money. What do you think of a horse like Candy Ride, who was a great horse? Great horses tend to be great horses who are great sires. That's all the more power to them. And I have been forgetting to mention this in this video, but it's kind of, the end of an era. Scat Daddy sire Justify last year. Another Twist of Fate is going to be his last runner in a Triple Crown race. I don't know if another Twist of Fate goes to the Belmont Stakes, but if another Twist of Fate does not go to the Belmont Stakes, then another Twist of Fate was the last son of Scat Daddy to run in a Triple Crown race. This was the last crop of Scat Daddies. So that's the end of an era right there. Candy Ride is still going strong, though. Candy Ride has produced some good horses. Gun Runner, of course, Game Winner. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I will say, yeah, like I make my picks. I have put money on the Kentucky Derby. I did put money on the Preakness this year, but I'm not a gambler. I'm into it for the sport. Like, I'll say things and give you guys advice, and if you want to take my advice and you want to use that and go off and make your own bets, that's fine. But Racing Rundown is not a gambling podcast first. Like, so I will say certain things, like I said in the Kentucky, this is the one that comes into my mind first. War of Will, I've been mixing up War of Will and Maximum Security seemingly for the past 2 weeks. Maximum Security, I said I didn't think he was going to be able to win the Kentucky Derby because I didn't think he was going to be able to get a pace or be able to be left alone on the lead. That's a freezing cold take right there because he was left alone on the lead. But if you wanted to take that and use that for your bet and take my advice saying that I didn't think that Maximum Security was going to be able to get a uncontested lead, and you said, okay, well, this guy said it, so I'm not going to bet on him. Like, if you want to do that, that's great. Since this is a secondary account, I still got. Do you think you will ever put out a tip? I think eventually I will. I say stuff like, I say that Racing Rundown will never become a gamble, and it will never be a gambling podcast. I can assure you that. But I think at some point, I'm not saying, I'm never going to say never for anything. But it's Racing Rundown is not a gambling podcast first. Like, I make my picks, but I'm not someone who's like, let's go out to Saratoga and bet on the 5th race. That's not the way that I like horse racing. I like horse racing as a sport, and I go there for the experience of the track. Off subject, but I'm too excited to wait. Do you know yet when? Yes, I do know when I'll be having him. I actually figured out the date right after I uploaded the episode, which was kind of annoying that I did that, and then I figured out when the date was. It's going to be Monday, June 17th. Time is to be determined, but Date is June 17th. Sorry about that. I briefed you. That's fine. I really don't. How many years before the last crop of Pioneer of the Nile? So, that's a good question. Pioneer of the Nile passed away this year. So I don't know how many horses he had bred to this year, and I don't know how many mares he'd bred to, and I don't know how many of them are in foal right now. But probably Scat Daddy died in 2015, and Scat Daddy died in 2015, and it's 2019, so probably 2023. I would say is probably the last year where you're going to have crops of Pioneer of the Nile. So in 4 years. Actually, maybe probably even more like 2022 because Pioneer of the Nile died early. Scat Daddy died in December, so Scat Daddy could have been bred, but I don't know about the breeding schedule and anything. I'm going to say tentatively 2022, but possibly you could see some Pioneer of the Nile runners sticking around in 2023. So the last crop of Pioneer of the Niles will either be 3-year-olds in 2022 or 23. They will reach racing age in 21 or 22. I know that's a lot of numbers, but again, that's really unfortunate what happened to Pioneer of the Nile. It was really not a good spring for the sport of thoroughbred racing, but we've moved past that. I know Santa Anita did have a fatality today, and that ended the 46-day run of no fatalities, which that's really good. That's not really good that there was a fatality, but that's really good that they were able to get that long without having any serious incident. And I think we've really moved past the incident at Santa Anita. And I just remember this. I got completely sidetracked because a bunch of comments came in when I wanted to do this. I'm not sure how many of you guys follow the Twitter account, and if you don't, you should. You don't see the corollary? Oh, well, that's good for you. People are responding to my comments on Twitter. My comment about maximum security being the big losers being Gary West and what's his name? Gary West and Luis Saez. But I'll get to your question in a minute. I just want to find this. I tweeted something yesterday. I actually retweeted something from PETA. And it was like, and I'm surprised they haven't blocked me for this yet, but it was, they released a statement and they said, condolences go out to the trainer, owner, and connections of Congrats Gal. I retweeted, I'm like, wow, this is the first time I've ever heard PETA express condolences to the connections of a horse that died during a race. Usually they just, and I'm paraphrasing the tweet, but it was to the extent of usually they just, usually PETA just goes after them and says they're all criminals. So good for PETA. They're progressing. Good for them. Obvious sarcasm is obvious. What's my favorite horse racing movie? Seabiscuit. 100%. I will say this, and this isn't maybe an unpopular take, but I do not like the movie Secretariat. It's a movie, but I don't like it. Seabiscuit, 100% the best horse racing movie. And that's not just because it's got Gary Stevens in it. Seabiscuit was a great movie. So we only got a couple more minutes left to this. Feel free to drop anything in you want to discuss. Trying to think of if there's anything else that I haven't hit on. Easy Goer Sunday Silence stuff coming out probably next week because I got a week. I'm gonna do a Belmont Stakes profile too, and hopefully I'll be able to get each horse their own video. Black Stallion for quality. I've never seen that, so I'll have to see that at some point. But I will have a week of just not doing. I think you're my long lost twin. I got a week of not having to deal with anything for the Belmont Stakes, so I'll be able to make the video about Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. I'm kind of gonna kind of take this coming week easy. There's not going to be as much content out. Of course, there is going to be a Preakness episode that's going to, a Preakness recap video that's going to come out, and then of course we're going to be talking Preakness on the podcast. But I'd probably say maybe 3 videos out this week max. Although I will, now that I think of it, I will probably try to upload some of the backlogged episodes of the podcast. I'm still backlog significantly. So I will try to get some of that out. But yeah, so that's what you can expect to coming this week. Easy Goer Sunday Silence episode. Yes, he filed his appeal. Luis Saez filed the appeal. I don't know what's going to happen with that appeal. Is there a link to your podcast? There is a link on the YouTube. If you go to the About section, you can get a link to it. I will pull the link up right now, and I will put it in the comments for the live show. We are on iTunes and Spotify, so you can get us there. Here it is. Here's the link to it on iTunes. I usually just tweet the iTunes link because I like iTunes better than Spotify. My seriously gonna have to go get my mouse. I'm gonna have to go get my mouse. Excuse me for a moment. I can't right click on this. I have a Chromebook, so I can't right click on this. I need to go get my mouse. I'll be right back. Alright, well, that's fun. I can't find my mouse right now. You know what I'll do? I'll jump into the comments. I'll copy the link for it off of iTunes podcast and put it in there. Share. Copy link. So yeah, next week is going to kind of be a little bit of, no, I don't want to say a lackluster week, but not as much. What do you think of track announcer? I think Travis Stone is a very good track announcer. Here's the link right here. This is the link to iTunes. I'm just going to click on that just to make sure that that's a valid link. I think it is. Yep, it works. That's the link right there. So that's the link to iTunes if you want to go get the podcast there. Oh yeah, definitely that is going to happen. There's 3 weeks until the Belmont Stakes, and I will try to get one video per horse. I will try to get one video out per horse, but I just kind of ran out of time, and of course with getting sick last week, it didn't work out the best for me being able to give each horse their own video. But I will love to be able to do that for the Belmont Stakes, and I'm going to try to do that as much as I possibly can. It might not be 100. I may have to combine a few horses, but I hope that I will be. And there's 3 weeks between them, so if horses confirm, I'm just going to do that. Like I'll just make a video for them. I waited a little bit too long for the Preakness profile series, but so if horses confirm, I'm just going to keep doing that. But yeah, I understand that, and it. What am I trying to say? It annoyed me that I couldn't get as much out, or couldn't get one video out per horse. But I will try to do that as much as possible for the Belmont Stakes. But that will definitely happen. But so next week, kind of going to be a bit of a chill week. We will have the podcast on Tuesday. I will hopefully have the Easy Goer Sunday Silence 30-year recap video, or 30-year anniversary video out. I'm excited for that. Let me think if there's anything else. And then of course we get the Preakness recap video that will be up tomorrow. The Preakness race analyst video will be up tomorrow. I did that for Justify's 2018 Kentucky Derby. That's going to be like a 2-minute video. That'll be up. What else? And I'm not going to make the mistake that I made last time of using NBC footage for the Preakness, because I'm not trying to get that video taken down. Because what happened is the Monday after the Kentucky Derby, and this is NBC just being completely 100% shady. They just went to every person's YouTube channel, and they just started taking down videos. They took down my video. They took down like 3 other people's videos, and someone in here, I'm not sure if Sketchy's still here, but I DM'd him and I'm like, check your YouTube video. NBC could have taken it down. They didn't because he only used like 4 seconds of their footage, but I'm not trying to get NBC taking it down. So when you see the Preakness recap video, you will hear the call from the Pimlico track announcer, whose name is now escaping me. Wonderful. How well do you think Matt? Oh yeah, our horse is already starting to confirm for the Belmont Stakes. Master Fencer, I think Master Fencer could be like Lonnie. You remember Lonnie from a few years ago? Ran well in the Belmont Stakes. That was as good as he did in the Triple Crown. I think Master Fencer could hit the board. Triple Crown trainer Bob Baffert. Oh, this just came out. Triple Crown trainer Bob Baffert won't be at Belmont Stakes. Kentucky Derby. What is all this stuff saying? Newsday just said something about why the Belmont. I don't really want to. I'm not really trying to think about the Belmont Stakes right now because it's so far away. But yeah, so you know, like I said, DMs are open. Feel free to ask me anything you want at any time. Like I said, DMs are open. Feel free to ask me anything at any time. Twitter is the best place to get up-to-date opinions from me. Really up-to-date everything. So I will be talking about as soon as horses confirm for the Belmont Stakes. I'm going to do videos about them so that I can get videos out about each horse and not be strapped with time. Of course, I can't guarantee that because I do also have a life. Something is up with my Twitter account since I moved back to the US, so I'm having to rely on YouTube and Instagram to catch your vids. Yeah, well, you can DM. DMs are open on Instagram too. I'm not sure if you've DM'd me on Instagram in the past, but uh, yeah, DMs are open. Twitter, once again, Twitter is the most reliable place. I need to get better about using Instagram. I have an Instagram. I don't use it as much as I probably should. Thank you, Dave Rodman. It makes me feel like an idiot that I didn't remember that. Uh, let me check it. I haven't gotten a DM from you yet, but yeah, just feel free to. DMs are open. You message them. It may take a couple of days for me to respond to it because, like I said, I do have a life. And even though I do check Instagram, I check Twitter a lot more, but I will make sure to check Instagram more often so that I can get. Do you think, as handicappers, we try too hard to beat the Derby horses? I don't want to say that. I don't think I. That's actually a very intriguing question by Horse Racing Daily. I really don't know. That's an interesting question. I'll have to think about that for a minute. And I am going to go over a little bit. I'm okay with going over. I did get a bit of a late start to this though, so I don't want to stay up all night. But whew. um, yeah, that is a good question. Uh, that wasn't my. I know with myself, I just thought that always I wasn't seeking with my picks to say I don't like the Derby horses, so I'm just going to try to beat them. But that's actually a very good question, and I don't want to like I said, I don't think I tried to beat the Derby horses, but I also don't think that I didn't try to beat the Derby horses because obviously I picked Always Mining. I just thought my rationale by picking Always Mining was he's won everything at Maryland. I didn't trust him necessarily anywhere else, but I thought, I'm going to give him the chance. He didn't, it didn't pan out. So that's a question that I would think. I would say I didn't, but maybe as handicappers, that's what happened. I don't think that I tried to beat the Derby horses, but now that I think about it, maybe I did. I don't know. I just got, yeah, two people just asked me that same question. What triggered my interest in horse racing? I'm going to say this, and this is kind of a very cliche answer, and I feel like I'm not the only person, but it was American Pharoah. I'm not shy about admitting it. It was American Pharoah, the Triple Crown winner, 2015. I remember being 12 years old in 2014. 2014 was the first time that I paid attention to the Triple Crown. You'd be a great horse owner. Thank you. That's nice to have someone say that about me. I've never owned a horse in my life. I don't have horses. I don't currently ride. I used to ride horses. I don't ride them anymore. I literally just sit and talk about horse racing. But California Chrome was the first Triple Crown season that I watched particularly, and I watched the Preakness and I watched the Belmont Stakes. And I remember being 12 years old and being really disappointed when California Chrome got beaten the Belmont Stakes. And then I just didn't touch horse racing again until the Kentucky Derby 2015. And 2015, that's the first time I went with my man Gary Stevens, and I didn't even know who Gary Stevens was. But I went with Gary Stevens in firing line, and it ultimately did not pan out. But like I always said, I tried to beat American Pharoah in the Kentucky Derby. Didn't work. But I remember the Belmont Stakes, and I wasn't as invested into this, but so I don't remember as much of the hype going into the Belmont Stakes. But I remember American Pharoah winning the Triple Crown and just thinking the whole time around the race, don't do what California Chrome did. Please don't do what California Chrome did. And, I remember like going to school the day or the Monday after American Pharoah won the Belmont Stakes. And thinking back on it, like that was what, like, we were like, oh, what, like 12, 13 years old. And we were talking about horse racing. Like, I can't tell you the last time I've talked to my actual friends in high school about horse racing aside from, and like that being the number one topic of discussion. So, I mean, I wish that if you gave me the opportunity, I wish that I could go back to 2015. Cigar and Gary are the pair that really. Do you mean Cigar and Jerry Bailey? Because Gary Stevens did not ride Cigar. Or is it that Cigar and Gary Stevens both got you into horse racing? Because I'm trying to think of one of either two ways. Is that a typo, or are you saying that Cigar and Jerry Bailey were both the reasons that got you into horse racing? But I would say I wish I could go back to 2015 and be the way that I am covering the Belmont Stakes. Because that would be amazing. Yeah, Jerry Bailey rode Cigar, not Gary Stevens. Gary Stevens got beat a bunch of times by Cigar, and I asked him about that, and so we'll hear from Gary how hard it was to beat Cigar, because Gary tried Cigar several times and did not succeed. Your great memory for facts will help you a lot in this industry. Thank you, I appreciate that. What do you think can get more people interested in horse racing and get younger people like you interesting? I would say is the champion staying around longer. And I have a couple of other people lined up that are not people in the industry. They're casual fans of the sport, and I'm going to bring a couple of those type of people on the show because I want to get the perspective of not even just a casual horse racing fan, but the guy who watches just the Triple Crown. So I'm going to have a couple of those people on during the summer to get their perspective on it. But I really think that, what captivates us in sports? It's great performances by great athletes. You could pick the sport whatever you want. Like whoever you want to pull out of any sport, that's what captivates us. Like we love seeing greatness and great athletes doing great things. And I think, if more horses, if Grey Horse like Justify ran more often, then maybe more people would be involved in it. Because, every year it's, you can get behind like your local whatever sport, your local baseball, your local basketball, your local football, your local hockey team. You know the players. And, I know rosters change a little bit, but for a long period of time, you know the players and you're used to the player. Like for baseball, most of the time you're going to have the same. Baseball rosters don't change significantly every year. Like I live in New England, so my local team, they're not my favorite team, but my local team is the Boston Red Sox. Like I know the players on the Red Sox, and they have been relatively the same players for the past 4 years. So that's what I would say. Like you know the players, but with the Kentucky Derby each year, there's different horses. Like 2016, there's Nyquist, Exaggerator, Gunrunner, Mo Heyman, More Spirit, those horses. 2017, Always Dreaming, Classic Empire, Gormley, Battle of Midway, looking at Lee, blanking on some of the other horses that were in that derby. Last year, Justify, Good Magic, Bolt Doro, Magna Moon, Mendelssohn. And then this year, Maximum Security, Country House, Game Winner, Code of Honor. And next year, there's going to be completely different horses. So it's different every year. And I think really, possibly it's horses running more. That's a hard question to answer, though. But I would say, some of it could be that, if horses ran more often, then it would attract more people to the sport. But I think we're definitely trending in the right direction because we're having more of the big time races on the big networks. That I think is definitely helping. Uh, I don't follow international racing as much. I did watch all the Maidan races this year, and it was kind of interesting because Maidan Dubai World Cup was the day after my prom, so late night still did watch all the races at the Dubai World Cup, the Golden Shaheen, all those races. But I'm not as into European racing as I am into American racing because I just don't know as much about it, but I do try to keep up with it. Uh, I really appreciate your knowledge about horses. Please tell me about. You want to know about Seabiscuit? We'll talk a lot. Come back now. I'm kind of red at the end, and I do want to hit some of the other stuff in there, but we'll talk about Seabiscuit next week. I'll make a note for that. The problem for horse racing as an industry, the connections are. Yeah, I was at a restaurant the other day, and I heard someone say, like, I like how horse racing is just to appeal to the elites in society. Name horses, yeah, name horses after the Kardashians. Yeah, definitely. I think naming horses after like athletes and stuff that's gonna get people into it, like definitely do that. Like Gronk the horse last year, running in the Belmont Stakes, got Gronk there, and I'm sure like it got having horses like that, it catches the attention. Naming horses after the Kardashians, yeah, that would be fun. Just have a match race of all Kardashians and Kim, Chloe, Robert. I don't know all the Kardashians. I don't pay attention to that crap, but just that would definitely get people to watch a match race, not a match race, but all the Kardashians riding, all horses named for all the Kardashians. Right? Tell me, you would watch that. I would watch that. Everyone would watch that. That would be such an awesome if someone did that. Do you think Max? Well, yeah, Maximum Security won the race, but he was disqualified. That's a simple question. Yes, he won the race. Yes, but he was disqualified. Yes, the disqualification was warranted. I will continue to say that for the rest of the time I'm in this industry. Maximum Security's disqualification in the 2019 Kentucky Derby was justified, and War of Will vindicated the stewards today in the Preakness. Okay, so we got a lot out today. If anyone just wants to drop in any last points to the comments, go ahead. I am going to cut it pretty soon because it is 10 o'clock out here on the East Coast, and I am kind of tired, and my voice is kind of getting very dry, and I did run out of water, so I could probably go for a few more minutes, but really, if anyone has anything just to drop in at the last, I'll do my sign off right now, though. As always, like I've said, Racing Rundown is a weekly horse racing podcast. You can get us wherever you get your podcasts, specifically iTunes and Spotify. We're also on YouTube. Racing Rundown, yes, grow, grow, grow. Racing Rundown is growing by the week. I could probably say this, and it's going to sound very egotistical, but it's probably true. Racing Rundown is the fastest growing horse racing podcast in New England because I think we're the only horse racing podcast based in New England. Yay for us. But yeah, we're going to keep growing. Again, like I just want to say like thank you to all the viewers too. You guys really make all this possible. Like, I could sit here and babble all I want about horse racing, but it's really like you guys drive it. You guys drive all this, and I really appreciate all the viewers, commenters, subscribers. You may hate me. You may say, this kid doesn't know what he's talking about, blah 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 blah, whatever. But I really appreciate it. But like I said, weekly podcast. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. We're on YouTube. I try to have videos out like every couple of days. You got Easygoer Sunday Silence 30-year retrospective to look forward to. Preakness analysis and episode 16. Jeez, we're already on episode 16. That makes me feel real. That's really fast. Time flies. Whew. So yeah, we got a Belmont Stakes profile series coming up soon. Once horses start confirming for the Belmont Stakes, we'll make those episodes. And just, yeah, so you got all that to look forward to. You can follow us on social media, Instagram, Racing Rundown Podcast. Twitter, Rundown Racing. Twitter is the best place to get my live up-to-date reactions on everything. And then, yeah, that's really it. I'll give you guys another 30 seconds for comments. I would just like to thank you for taking... Thank you. I really appreciate the support. I appreciate the support from all of you. Like whether you come out to Racing Rundown just to flame me, just to comment on the maximum security video, you're a complete idiot. Like whether it's that or you're saying you praising my knowledge of horse racing, telling me that I have such a good memory, saying that it's great that I have this fire and passion at such a young age. You know, whatever your reason for watching, I appreciate it. Future subject would love to hear about how to handicap bloodlines. I could definitely hit that at some point, how to handicap bloodline. West is afraid. I think, you know, Gary West is going to retreat back into his shell now, and I really think he should. He's a clown. I think the clown Gary West should just go away, Gary West. Go West, old man. That's what I'll say to him. Go West, old man. Go back to California, win your maiden stakes, win your 16 claimers. Yes, Maximum Security won the Kentucky Derby. He interfered with War of Will. War of Will, very talented horse. Not saying that War of Will would have won the Kentucky Derby, but I think this kills the take of Maximum Security was robbed of the Kentucky Derby. And if you disagree with me on that, then that's a you problem. That's a you problem if you disagree with that, because the horse that was interfered with won today. I really don't care that Maximum Security wasn't in the race. That's a you problem. You'd make a great jockey agent. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I've never thought about that. I love being in the media. And see, like if I was a jockey's agent, I wouldn't be able to have the kind of I like what I'm doing right now. I of course I would never be opposed to that, but thank you. I really appreciate that. But yeah, so that's my final take on Gary West. Go West, young man. If you still side with the take of Maximum Security was robbed for the Kentucky Derby, that's a you problem. I mean, all the stuff tells me that's a you problem. So, we went a lot longer than I thought we were going to go. But great show. Thank you for all the support. Thank you all for coming out. Gary Stevens' interview is Monday, June 17th. I'm working on more stuff for Racing Rundown. I'm not going to disclose what that is at this point. But again, I thank you all for your support, and we'll see you all on Tuesday, and we'll see you next Saturday for the live show. Have a good night. And also, just right before I cut, DMs are open. If anyone comments anything last minute and I miss it, or I cut the video before you're able to say it, DMs are open. Feel free to send me a message on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. So, have a good night.